People are moving out as fast as they can.
No, I didn't want to take out of the house.
Nature's fury can be unpredictable.
Really bad time.
And in 1991, her fury turned on us.
The smoke is so thick, at times you're just choked up and you can't breathe.
5 years later, have we learned how to prepare for disaster?
Now, a News 4 special. Firestorm remembered 5 years later.
Good evening. I'm News 4 anchor Marianne Mishima. Here in the inland Northwest, we don't worry much about earthquakes, hurricanes, or killer tornadoes. But 5 years ago, we worried about fire in a way that most of us had never considered before. Tonight, we'll show you several ways to stay safe in the fire zone. But first, John Allison takes us back to Firestorm 1991.
It was a wind that seemed to come from some unknown haunted place.
It's not good.
It grew and it thickened, and it left us with a feeling of something terrible on the way.
911, do you have an emergency?
There's a fire north of Chatteroy.
Hold the line, please.
It's bad.
We have at least 3 fires burning in this area.
It's worse on the east side, but it's burning on the east and west side of the road.
When the fires came, they came from every direction, from a flicker to a firestorm in a matter of minutes.
People are moving out as fast as they can. It's really going now.
All right, Bowles, you do the same thing. Don't stay there any longer.
All right, I got to get out of here.
All right,
Bye.
thanks.
As the fires spread and power was lost, News Talk 920 became the lifeline of information, keeping residents and even some firefighters ahead of the advancing flames.
You mentioned earlier that houses in that area are threatened, correct?
We're starting to evacuate.
Stop them back there so they can get through.
People left their jobs that morning to try to stand guard over their homes.
Trying to get as many things as possible.
Number of neighbors joining in to literally help pull furniture and belongings out of the home while it was still burning.
We're a close neighborhood, and it's terrible.
What can you do? Nothing. Nothing. I mean, I wasn't worried about it.
We're evacuating. We've done all of McCoy. We're now evacuating Moffett Road. The fire has already jumped Star Road. It's headed our direction right now.
God, I just don't believe it.
Jim, I'm in the middle of a firestorm. It's very difficult to see.
It's too hot, Darren. I know. We got to get back in there with him.
There are burning embers and dust and smoke in the area.
Oh. Darren, don't kick it up at me. It's my shop, my sculptures, everything.
Some who got past the barricades, like Rick Warrington, came home only to watch firsthand as despair swept into their lives.
I built that whole son of a bitch from scratch. Everything in there, through the septic system all the way. Got 2 animals in there too, and I don't know whether they're alive or not. Back! 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 I'm holding down this line right here. We're an attack group. Let's go to work. Go.
The fires quickly swamped the men and women to whom we normally turn to put them out.
You know what my father is?
We're doing everything we can.
Geez, you know, I didn't want to take out of the house. You know, you wonder what. You don't know.
The smoke is so thick, at times you're just choked up and you can't breathe. And right now, firefighters have just arrived at this home and is on fire. They're spraying water on the roof, and I'm getting hit with some of the water right now. But this is clearly a disaster for people who live in this neighborhood.
It was a panabone cedar home, so it just went.
The fires burned on and through the night. It was a very long, terrible day.
Really bad time.
It's hard to believe that something like this could happen. So I've never seen anything like it. It just makes you sick to see people lose everything the way they've done.
The morning of October 17th revealed a community pocked with devastation.
A lot of those houses went up in 30 seconds.
Anything.
What was that?
That's what you were looking for. Oh my God! That's what we were looking for. Look. My son's first Christmas. My oldest son's first Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh God.
And neighbors beginning to ask a long, painful question.
Nothing.
Where do we go from here?
You know, when Hangman happened, we said that couldn't happen to us because we got that canyon, we got plenty of warning. Well, crazy people we were.
Not so much crazy as simply human, living the human desire to live among the trees. Nature has a way of making it easy to forget her lessons because nature has a way of covering up her own physical scars. That's certainly what's happening here at this home that burned 5 years ago. In fact, next to this fireplace lies a baby ponderosa pine, 5 years old now, and someday it will grow to something of grandiose beauty, to a point where someone will come here and say, this would be a great place to build a house. And only then will the cycle be truly complete.
When we come back, survivors of Firestorm rebuild from the ashes. Five years later, it is still painful for the people who lost everything to Firestorm. Each family has dealt with it in its own way. Some had to move out, never really able to leave this disaster behind. Others have rebuilt from the ashes, trying to get on with their lives.
Looks like the fire's headed up the valley. Keep an eye on our backside.
Okay.
Not enough, huh?
Well, I would have, but I can't talk my husband into it.
Gladys and Bill Green stayed long after firefighters asked them to leave. They were scrambling to save their house as fires swept through a canyon and into their Spokane Valley neighborhood.
It's very easy to get disoriented in the middle of this firestorm.
I got my car pointed out, my motorhome pointed out. If the thing gets out of hand, we'll shove off.
As their neighbors' homes burned around them, the Greens were finally driven out by flames, heat, and smoke. 5 years later, Gladys's street is lined with new homes. Most of her neighbors have rebuilt with fireproof roofs and landscaping. Together, the people in Ponderosa got through Firestorm and then found a way to put it behind them.
We made a pact that we would quit talking about it, had a nice big picnic, and we all came, and there was a big cake, you know, the anniversary, and we talked it out, and we said, there, now, we're through.
Came up the road down below here, and I could see the fire.
Richard Warrington watched helplessly as his life went up in flames.
It's kind of like a woman that's been raped. You know, you can't. I don't know how you explain it, but it's something that's happened to you that you can never, you know, recapture.
In the ashes of Firestorm lay both a home and a business Warrington had built and paid for himself.
The aftermath, not so much the day of the fire, but to walk back on this ground when it was all burned and singed and blackened, you know, it was like, now what do I do?
It didn't take long for him to decide.
I like things that are beautiful, and that's what I build, you know, and when it's all like that, I guess I get more motivated.
Almost immediately, Warrington went to work rebuilding his shop himself. Then he pumped out piece after piece of his artwork to generate cash. His creativity fueled as much by pain as passion.
I just collapsed, and I was just, you know, I was a physical mess.
Richard Warrington's new home looks nothing like the old one. It's contemporary, slightly sterile. There's a tentative feel, as if he's not sure he and his family will stay.
I still feel like I'm sort of a caretaker to this place.
Though he's recovering physically and emotionally, financially he's suffered. He's part of a lawsuit against the power company, but the case still isn't settled.
We may just sell this place, pay off what we owe, and do something lesser, you know, so that I guess that pressure's off my head and I can feel more relaxed.
5 years after Firestorm, litigation is at a standstill. Parts of the lawsuits are still under appeal. About 1,000 families are included in the class action lawsuits against Washington Water Power and Inland Power and Light. They claim the power companies were negligent in failing to properly trim trees and maintain equipment and could have prevented the fires. This report by the National Fire Protection Association says, quote, more than 90% of the fires started when winds blew down power lines or when trees or limbs fell into power lines. Meanwhile, Washington Water Power maintains that it was not negligent and therefore not responsible for the fires. A Washington Water Power spokesman says the company continues its hazardous tree identification program, where dead or dying trees or ones that are in danger of interfering with power lines are routinely identified and removed.
They're putting themselves in an environment that we may not be able to take care of.
Deputy Fire Chief Skip Wells watches as developers continue to build houses in the rural wooded areas of his North Spokane County district.
I'm working with one now that wants to develop 200 lots, 10 acres apiece, all in timber.
And people keep moving in. Chief Wells says few of them take precautions, though, to protect their homes against wildfires. Local government has toughened up some of the building codes, requiring roads wide enough to handle fire trucks, screens over vents and chimneys, and a ban on cedar shake roofs. But Wells says those codes don't require an adequate water supply for firefighting.
There's only so much money to go around. There's no one fire department in this county or city that can handle this kind of an environment.
Many homeowners in the Shady Slope area live through Firestorm. Some have heeded the warnings about fire protection. Many have not.
Going down the road, there's no change. The trees are still the same way. The ladder fuel's the same way. There's been no effort to protect themselves. And that bothers me a lot. That bothers me a lot. We could be right back here again. I hope that was once in a lifetime.
Unless rural homeowners learn to protect their homes from wildfire, this may not be a once-in-a-lifetime event. When we return, staying safe in the fire zone. It could happen again so easily, and it has, although on a smaller scale. This year, wildfire hit the West Plains area near Airway Heights, and once again, many people were not prepared. Carrie Tomlinson shows us how to stay safe in the fire zone.
This is the granddaddy.
Like Firestorm, whirling winds gave the West Plains fire its fury.
So this is the devastation of the fire. Storm of '96.
In the end, 8 homes destroyed. Firefighters want to see residents protecting their homes, not with hoses during the fire's violent attack, but long before. Forester Guy Gifford inspects houses and their land.
One of the nice things about the driveways to start is gravel.
This one near Marshall.
If I have a 30-foot motorhome, can I easily and quickly drive it to my house, turn it around, and exit out? Because a lot of times that's the size of a fire truck.
Gifford has a checklist, what you can do to protect your home from wildfire. At the top of the list, the roof. This one passes inspection. It's composition, not cedar shake.
Cedar shake roofs are extremely dangerous. If anyone has ever tried to start a fire in the fireplace, you always use cedar as your kindling. You can literally almost start with a match.
The Connell family of Ponderosa had a cedar shake roof. But during Firestorm, a single ember, like a burning match, landed on top.
All the stuff blew up in the air, and it caught on the roof. And I had cleaned the pine needles off the roof not too long before, but it caught on the roof, and that's what started the little fires, and that's what made the house go.
This is all that remains of the house. A newspaper photo showing the flames and the family pictures firefighters pulled out in the final moments.
Those are the ones. That's it. The clothes we were wearing and the cars we were driving, that's all that was saved.
Teacher Ron Connell and his family rebuilt, this time with a composition roof.
Well, of course, after going through a fire, losing everything that you have, that you don't want that to happen again. And so if you can do that, you definitely want to prevent it. So that's what we're doing. That's what we did. And
pruning the dead branches from the shrubberies is a good idea.
Gifford continues his survey, now looking at the area around the house.
He's also done some landscaping with plants.
The safest spot in a wildfire, he says, would be the Spokane Arena, surrounded by asphalt and concrete.
Extremely easy to protect, low to no chance of ever catching fire in a wildfire situation. But I wouldn't want to live there.
Gifford says you can still protect your home, but with green instead of asphalt black or concrete gray. You can create a safety zone around your house, at least 30 feet of lawn. Plants low to the ground and spaced far apart so they won't generate a lot of heat if they burn. Trees at least 10 feet from the house. And just outside this green space,
the crowns, look up and look up.
Thin out the other trees, keeping their crowns at least 10 feet apart. Gifford says this will keep the fire away from your home, give firefighters a safe place to work, and allow the crews to use their resources wisely.
I really miss the trees.
The Cooey family of Chattaroy loved their trees. Their old house was surrounded by them.
There was a cluster right here by the master bedroom, and man, they were everywhere, really. I mean, the ones in the front yard were within 5-10 feet, limbs probably touching the house.
But those trees helped feed the raging energy of Firestorm. Their house swept up in the flames.
With all the trees gone,
the family of 5 hurried to rebuild, pushed by insurance agents, eager to bring order to their lives.
The thing for me was to get back into a home. And so the idea of fire prevention was there, but not to the extent, not to a big extent.
But the fire that destroyed their old home made their new home safer. Flames killed the trees nearby. The Cooeys planted grass to fill the brown space. Almost by accident, they created a safety zone that could help them in case of another enormous fire.
I feel real safe right now. You know, we were so enclosed in the trees before that I couldn't even see.
The house near Marshall has passed Guy Gifford's test. A wide driveway for trucks to get in, a composition roof to protect from embers, green space with the surrounding trees thinned and trimmed. Gifford says it would be easy to save this house from wildfire. It wouldn't take much water or many firefighters, both on short supply during a crisis.
You've got to do it around your house.
Homeowner Bob Bennett is proud and relieved.
I'd hate to test this theory, but everyone tells me that if we had a fire coming through here now, it would maybe blow through the tops, but it would not have enough to sustain any fire and get to our house.
If a wildfire hits, firefighters like Guy Gifford may come by your home, checking to see what precautions you've taken. They may mark your home as easy or hard to protect. Firefighters say they'd rather use their limited resources to protect 2 easy homes than 1 hard home, helping more people avoid scenes of fire destruction like this one.
It was devastating. I thought if we ever have an opportunity to prevent that from happening to us, we're going to do so.
Too busy to get to it. That
in our field, we don't ask if, we say when will the next home be threatened and when will the next home be lost.
Those houses went up in 30 seconds.
We know we'll be losing more homes in the future. We're just trying to lower the amount of homes we will be losing.
There's nothing but a bunch of charged sheet metal now.
I guess just speaking from my heart and from my experience, if you can do something to prevent losing your home and your possessions and everything that you have, do it. It's worth it.
You've seen what to do to protect your home from wildfire. Now, what do you do when fire forces you out? We'll show you when we come back. In a massive wildfire, some residents stay behind, fighting to save their homes. But what happens when flames force you out? Firestorm survivors suggest you plan now before the chaos and confusion of a wildfire become reality. Learn how to escape the fire zone.
What can you do?
I have told people one thing, and that is to get a list, to write down what it is and where it's at in the house, and so that you can just go grab it if you only have a few minutes, and then save some time and know that you've gotten the things that are the most important.
We're starting to evacuate.
When you hear the call to evacuate, or when you decide you need to go, the Department of Natural Resources has tips for you to remember. Take your car out of the garage, facing toward an escape route. Make sure it starts. Close doors and windows of your house. Cover vents to keep heat and embers out. Move curtains and furniture away from the windows. Put hand tools, ladders, and hoses outside for firefighters to use. But the bottom line, leave while you still can. You may come away with nothing except your life. And Firestorm survivors say, that's enough.
I realize that everything else is just material goods, and material goods can be replaced.
You know, it brings up a lot of emotions and a lot of things that I hope that nobody has to go through.
The house I had built, the awards that I had from sports, you know, all these things were who I was. My yearbooks through my high school years and things that people wrote about you and stuff. All of a sudden, it was kind of like your whole history was erased.
My youngest daughter could not sleep by herself for quite a while after that. She's just now able to pretty much stay in her bedroom at night, you know, as a result of the fire.
You know, you continually wonder, you know, how would it have been had this not happened?
Well, you just appreciate neighbors and people. You realize what we had and how easily it can be lost.
Spokane area doesn't get hurricanes, it doesn't get tornadoes, but it gets high winds, and has for centuries, and will continue.
More people are taking steps to protect their homes, but firefighters say we must do more to prevent the mass destruction of a firestorm. We can't change nature's fury, but we can learn to stay safe in the fire zone. Thank you for joining us.
You can bank on it, just as sure as we're here. It will happen again.